Well, that is our cue. So we will welcome you in to our little corner booth and say good evening. Garrett Davenport, Chad Speaker, Griffin Weinberg here as well. We are streaming Mimo Info Sports on YouTube and at Mimo Info Sports on Twitter. Of course, you can actually listen to the audio feed as well on our website, mimoinfo.com. Gentlemen, we are halfway through the season. Everybody get 10 games guaranteed, 9 in the regular season and 1 to open up the playoffs. And halfway through, got a lot of interesting stuff that has happened, a lot of thrilling games. I don't know if I've seen as many close down to the wire contests as we've had this season. And as we start to dive into week 5, Griff, I'll let you get going. What has jumped out to you now as we're halfway through the season for the teams here in the Parkland area?
There's a lot of good teams around the area, Nathan.
Yes, sir.
There are a lot of teams that could be playing in that Final Four, possibly for a state championship. You know, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but there are a lot of exciting teams around here. I mean, Valley Catholic doesn't feel like they can get stopped even when they lose their starting quarterback. You have another kid step up, hadn't played quarterback in a while, and they're still the same old Valley Catholic. Central, they're rolling right now. They're going to be having a very nice game against St. Genevieve this upcoming Friday. We'll talk about that a little bit later on throughout the show as well. There's just a lot of exciting teams, and especially the team that we're going to be talking to tonight.
Yeah, the St. Pius Lancers are going to be our special guests here this evening. They are off to a great start to the year, but even the teams whose record might not reflect it, like a Potosi, have played really well. It's just a question of when the wins come for them. Chad, what's the thing that's jumped out to you here through week 5?
Well, I want to know who the genius was who scheduled Hillsborough and Festus for 7:30, because that was brilliant. All the other games wrap up, and we're able to carry your KJF feed on KREI and J98, and what a treat for our listeners. So as we were able to get full games in on all of our other broadcast action, and then wrap up the night with that classic on KJF, and then also on J90 and KREI. Brilliant stuff right there. A bit of scheduling, but I thought, not 5 weeks ago, but I thought this summer that we were going to have a pretty normal football season this year. But it's still, if you talk to coaches, every week it's like, well, we're missing 10 guys this week. We're missing 5. We're missing 3 because of COVID. I mean, COVID is still a factor in all this stuff. Some teams have even missed games, and so some of the teams that maybe aren't dominant, and some of the teams, maybe that are just in a rebuild, but the ones in the middle are still kind of dependent upon how that roster flexes out and how they deal with that. So I hope it's not a factor going down the stretch, but probably it'd be foolish to think that it won't be.
Everybody's still kind of learning how to do it on the fly at times, Garrett, and yet the teams that have found a way to get the job done, you have to be impressed with what they've managed.
Oh, man, you got to be impressed with, honestly, almost all of these teams in the area. I mean, just a lot of fight from these teams. I mean, I'm with Griffin. There's just so much talent around this area, and there are teams that have been getting it done. Looking at North County, they're 4-1, coming off a 6-4 season. They got a big game, and we'll get to that later on against Festus. And you talked about teams that maybe their record doesn't show their body of work. I mean, looking at St. Genevieve, that's another school that maybe the record doesn't exactly show how good they are. We talked about Potosi. So I mean, this football season is just really, really fun.
It's been exceptionally entertaining, and the latest example of that as we start diving into our broadcast games, by the skin of their teeth, by the hair of their chinny chin, the Hillsborough Hawks winning a big rivalry game Friday night. You heard Chad allude to it. We had a later start because they held a wonderful ceremony earlier in the evening as part of their POW and MIA remembrance night out there at Hillsborough. Once they did play the game, though, they ended up beating the Festus Tigers 34-29 on KJF, and it was an instant classic. We were tied at 13 at halftime. The game stayed close pretty much all the way through. Most of the offense for Festus came from one particular big play combination. From the gun, to his left is Bradshaw. He's dropping back to throw. Looks deep. Down the sideline. Got a man. Caught. Armand Branch. 15, 10, 5, touchdown Festus. Armand Branch over the top. Cannot be stopped. and he will haul in a 49-yard score there. And Festus will lead the offense on the field, trying to tie this game up. It's 28-26 with less than 3 minutes left in the third. Rickerman would go on to throw for 320 yards. Armand Branch caught a 95-yard touchdown earlier in that game. He had 7 catches for 211 yards to go with a pair of scores. This is a guy who has not played football before, immediately steps on the field and has become a star for Festus. The Tigers were still trailing by 2, though, as we went into the fourth quarter. They were down 28-26. They did get a defensive stop, though, got the ball back, and when a drive in the red zone stalled, they turned to their special teams and their kicker. Ball on the near side hash. Play clock is running down. They get the snap off. Kick is up, and it is good! Emily Holt has given Festus a 1-point lead with 8 minutes to go. And yes, you heard that right. Emily Holt, a junior who has been a great player for the Festus basketball team her first 2 years. Just a couple of weeks ago, they said, we got to get a kicking game. So they asked her to come on out. She's been good on extra points so far. Great redemption moment after she missed 2 earlier in the game to hit a kick that takes the lead late in the ball game. The night, for the most part, would be about the ferocious rushing attack of the Hillsboro Hawks, though. They would not be denied their chance to win it, and one guy in particular, their star junior tailback, would put his team back on top later in the fourth quarter. I formation behind the red. Handoff. Pitch it. Patterson, left side, into the end zone. Yes! Touchdown, Hillsboro! Jackson Patterson with the pitch around left tackle. Barrels into the end zone from 2 yards away. His 4th TD of the night has put the Hawks back in front. Their lead is 34-29 with 5:03 to play. They would miss a 2-point conversion to try and extend it to a full 7-point lead, so it was still a 5-point game when Festus got it back with about 5 minutes to go. They used just about every second of that clock to try and drive down the field. It looked like they might win this one, but in the final minute, the Hawks found a way to survive. It's 4 wide, trips here to the near side for Cole Rickerman on 3rd down. Takes the shotgun snap, drops back, looking to the end zone. Nobody's open. He's going to take off and run. Rickerman breaking a tackle, lost the football. It's free inside the 10. Hillsboro falls on it. The Hawks did it. They made the play defensively. Rickerman fumbles it. Hillsboro comes away with it. And the Hawks, with less than a minute to go, can kneel it out. They're going to get a signature win over their rivals. Unbelievable. A game that could determine the champion of the MAFC Red Division, a game that could determine the number 1 seed in Class 4 District 1 when we get to the playoffs. And, Chad, it was every bit the classic you would hope a game like that would be.
3 weeks in a row, man. 3 weeks in a row we've had games like this. Was Rickerman, was it a big shot? Was he trying to transition the ball? How did he?
Really,
it on that one?
Really, it just got poked out as he was looking to make a juke move at about the 3-yard line. And I say the 3-yard line, if he makes the guy miss, he scores.
Yeah, and they were moving right down the field, too, weren't they?
And it's unfortunate on that one end for Festus because Cole Rickerman, who came so close to being an All-State QB last year, I think he's going to get it this season. He did everything else right that night. He got that ball back down by 5 with 5 minutes to go. And it looked like he was at a funeral. Like, he was not fazed at all. He played so well, and I feel so bad that, unfortunately, that had to happen to him because he was tremendous. The connection with Armand Branch is just spectacular. The beauty of it, though, in hearing from some of the coaches afterwards on that staff and hearing from A.J. Ofadale, they were more impressed with their team than anything. They came in kind of wondering, the young guys that they have are in the trenches, both sides of the ball. They were kind of wondering, are we going to hold up front? They felt for the most part they did it.
Offensively in particular,
Yeah. They really felt like the offensive line had one of its best games of the year, which allowed them to execute, throw the ball around the yard like they did. And that is why, for as much as this will hurt for Festus, they know that the goals in front of them of repeating as a district champion, they feel like it's more alive than ever. And if anything, the coaches are simply saying, that was great, now we're ready for the rematch.
It'll be interesting when we get to the end of the year, when we look back. And we may get, hey, we're on pace to have more great thrillers, right? But to kind of figure out, hey, what was our best game all year? And, Farmington did it on the defensive end, so that kind of stands out in that respect. St. Pius last week did it on a Hail Mary, so, what a signature moment there. But this one may have been the most impactful one, the game itself. with conference and district implications. So good arguments for all three, I think.
You really can't ask for a 3-week in a row run that we've had of broadcast game finishes. This one was a great one, and the head coach of the winning Hillsboro Hawks, Bill Saharsky, described what he was seeing in the final moments.
We're looking for a stop. So your heart's pounding, your heart's racing. You're probably overthinking everything in terms of what they may throw at you. I'm just proud. Our kids, they really hate giving up points, and you're gonna have to go down and get all the way in the end zone. And our kids, they battled, and we told them, hey, you're gonna have to get a tip, you're gonna have to get something, a script, turnover. As they got closer, and you're gonna have to make a big play here and get a stop. And we told them you got 2 plays, and you're able to get it 1 play before 4th down.
A huge night for Jackson Patterson as he runs for over 250 yards and scores 4 touchdowns. He was the Applebee's Farmington Player of the Game, and he said afterwards that his teammates were actually embracing that frantic finish.
Not even glad. We weren't arguing. We weren't fighting. We weren't even worried about the score, man. We're like, this is the funnest game we ever played. We're doing this for each other. Every single practice, this is what we live for. That was a fun game.
You can tell why he does well in the field. He's still fired up, man.
Yeah.
He probably could have played a doubleheader that night.
He played close to every snap on both sides of the ball, so the fact that he looked like he was getting stronger as the game goes just speaks to what sort of athlete he is. But also, you're right. He's got that adrenaline rush going clearly that I would imagine makes it fun to be his teammate and be around him. And, just an incredible win for that Hillsboro program. Those players like Jackson Patterson, I got to talk to them this summer. They pointed to the Festus loss they suffered last year. They said that's not happening again. That was the thing that was in their mind going to the summer. So I'm sure the moment that ball got loose with 40 seconds to go, it was a big, deep sigh of relief more than anything, as they are now 2-0 in conference play. They win the next 2. They'll be your MAFC Red Division champs. There is the possibility of a split title. We'll talk about Festus and North County later, which has an opportunity to make that a possibility. But just an incredible thing that Hillsboro has done here.
And you throw in North County there. That's the kind of the triumvirate, too. They'll all play during the regular season. North County and Festus this week that we'll have for folks on the air. But those 3 teams, we could even have a rematch of all those matchups to come district time because they're all right there.
I said it before the year, and just watching the games, it's confirmed it even more. We could get all 3 of those teams beating each other. We could get different results with the matchups Farmington has, and then the results could be completely different when they play again in the playoffs.
They could. Farmington, North County. North County took care of Farmington early, and that was a convincing win, but the Knights started a lot of guys that are young, and they're going to be a different team come week 10 and 11.
They've definitely improved since week 1. And you can even argue that week 1 is kind of a preseason kind of week, seeing what you got. And, of course, Farmington, they didn't really know what they had. Now, the Knights and Eric Krupe know what they got. They know what they got over
I feel like we need one of those video boards they used during the election where it's like pointing out, what are the chances, what are the odds of all this happening, the different scenarios.
Projecting.
Yes, projecting everything that happens, who's closing down and on all the divisions and stuff. It's exciting. I can't wait for it.
And one thing is for sure, once we actually know the seedings, we get to district playoffs, you can end up throwing them out because when the teams match up, the games will be fantastic for sure. Speaking of the red-hot Farmington Knights, they went to Cape Girardeau Friday, and they caged the Tigers of Cape Central, a 21-0 win, as heard on KRAI. It only took 11 seconds for the Knights to set the tone and for Drew Felker to score on the first play from scrimmage.
Felker with the snap, and he's going to keep it. He's got a couple blocks. First play of the game. Here it goes. Drew Felker. 30, 20, 15, 10, a 5. First play of the game. Drew Felker with a Farmington Knights touchdown. What a beautiful play. Great read to hold it was Drew Felker, and he just busted right up the middle. And a 6-0 lead. First play of the game.
Felker's had some of those breakaway runs the last few games, and the thing about Drew Felker is, you talk to different coaches. Hey, who are your fast guys? Give me a 40 time, whatever. And Eric Krupe doesn't, he doesn't say he has any spectacular 40 times on his team. But you talk to the other side, and they're like, yeah, this guy runs a 4.4. This guy, whatever. Felker is never mentioned as the fastest guy on the field in a lot of the matchups. But you watch the games, and first of all, nobody catches him when he's out front. And second of all, he tracks some of those supposed faster guys down when he's on the defensive end.
I was just about to mention that. I mean, you talked about Drew Felker. He just does not quit on a play. We talked about when he tracked down Blake Henson against Potosi. He did the same thing, and that's not something I have, what happened in the story, but I believe his name was Cortez Hopkins. It wasn't a big Cam Harris for Cape Central. He busted loose. He was going down the sideline. The only person he had to beat was Drew Felker, and he had about 3 steps on him. Drew Felker stopped a touchdown on that one play. I believe it was 14-0 still, but
that helped preserve the shutout.
It preserved the shutout right there. He didn't quit on a play, even though he had a couple steps on him. So Drew Felker, he's a guy that doesn't quit on the football
kind of his
field.
signature, yeah.
I want to say he had a touchdown-saving tackle in the Potosi game.
He did.
Too.
That's so weird. Yeah.
He just seems to be. He seems to be the fastest guy when you actually start playing the games.
Put him in pass.
And we talked about Drew Felker and his big run last game being the wrong read. This time,
now that's what he said.
That's what he says. But this time, 100% the right read.
He needs to stop being so humble.
He's such a humble guy.
He's doing too well. Case in point, he's always been a good runner. We've always known you put the ball in his hands, he'll make plays. But after Friday, he's now got at least 1 passing touchdown in 3 straight games as he doubled the Farmington lead by finding a wide-open Brady Cook.
He's going to look at the sideline, look for the call for Coach Krupe. We're approaching 6 minutes as Farmington leads 7-0. Felker is going to roll out the pass. He's going to find Brady Cook wide open for a Farmington touchdown. 28-yard pass from Drew Felker to Brady Cook. And the Farmington Knights are up 13-0. Wide open was Brady Cook, and that's what we talked about in pregame, is that this Farmington Knight defense, they run, and then wide open are their receivers. Drew Felker has definitely improved as a passer.
Something that you'll notice on the touchdown call right there that Garrett was talking about, the beginning of that play, Felker rolling out, and he is, that's where he really excels, I think, in the passing game, is when he's on the move.
And I said, excuse me there, Nathan. I said defense in the call right there. But what I meant to say was this Farmington offense, all they do, they run the football. And just a really smart decision from offensive coordinator Josh Hain. I mean, it seems like week after week, they never see the pass coming. And that's one of those situations right there. Cape Central had no idea it was coming, and Brady Cook wide open once again for another touchdown.
It's really interesting that the last 2 years, when that offense has been potent for Farmington, we focus so much on what they do running the ball. I don't know if they've been this prolific passing it in that time.
They have been about as prolific in terms of total yards, but their efficiency is way up this year.
Yes, they are taking advantage of the opportunities when they throw it. This was really a defensive game in Cape Girardeau Friday night. Both teams, after it got to 14-0, were quiet for the rest of the first half and really the rest of the night. However, the first possession of the second half is where Felker would do it again to put his head down behind the Knights' O-line and get the final points of the evening.
2nd and 2, balls on the 20. Right there at the red zone are the Farmington Knights. Felker under center, takes the snap. QB sneak, wide open hole. Here's Felker with another Knights touchdown on the QB sneak, 20 yards away. And Farmington leads 20-0. That was very, very easy if you're Drew Felker. He's got 3 total touchdowns on the game. 2 on the ground, 1 through the air. What a game for Drew Felker.
162 yards rushing, 43 yards passing, as Felker was once again our Applebee's of Farmington player of the game.
The interesting part of the Farmington playbook is that the quarterback sneak is part of their regular group of plays they run. It's not just a goal line play. I mean, if they see the center uncovered, they get it and go.
Yeah, I saw at least 5 plays in a row that Farmington ran the QB sneak, and it got 5 to 6 yards every single time. And talking to Coach Krupe, he trusts this O-line. He trusts it, more and more as each week passes. And you can tell that game, they said, hey, run right behind Jaden Euler, and you're going to get a couple yards. And that's exactly what happened. So a lot of trust from Eric Krupe for his offensive line to make things happen, and they do.
And yet, for all that has gone right for the offense lately, the Farmington defense has now only given up 1 touchdown in the last 10 quarters of play. Their head coach, Eric Krupe, saying that they deserve the spotlight, and he's really proud of their effort.
one thing we've done is we've taken steps forward every single week that we've done. We're not here. I'm really proud of them for the effort that they give, the fact that they're very coachable. When you ask them to do something, they're going to do their darndest to try to do it like you asked, and the results on the field. I mean, they are getting better week by week. You can see the results prove it. We still need to tackle a little bit better, but we're tackling better than we did when we started the season.
Obviously good to see that the defense is starting to play really well, as we've talked so much about the emergence of the weapons, whether it's Felker, Jeremiah Cunningham, or Kason McLean. At the end of the day, you're probably more likely to have to get a stop to win a game than you are to have to score.
Yeah, you got to make stops, and that's all that Farmington was doing. And if we could give Applebee's of Farmington player of the game, it would go to Brady Cook. He had 4 tackles for loss, 11 tackles on the game, and I believe he also had a sack as well. So this Farmington defense, again, like Coach Krupe said, they've become more disciplined. They've really worked on their mechanics, their tackling, and not just Brady Cook, just the entire defense played very well. The thing I can think of right now is in the fourth quarter, they had 2 fourth down and goals. Stopped Cape Central both times. They're really disciplined. The team tackling is another big thing for them. I mean, you face up these real big running backs they've had to face for the last 2 weeks. They've been able to corral the football, get a lot of guys around, and bring some big boys down.
Nobody's tiny in the SEMO North. You got to wrap up and make a tackle. And Farmington has done just that in 2 conference games as they go to 2-0 in league play. They're 4-1 overall, heading into another conference matchup with Poplar Bluff. We'll talk more about their homecoming game a little later on. The other one that we had for you on regional radio on J98, man, that Central Rebels offense is a thing of beauty. They spoiled Potosi's homecoming game with a 64-7 win over the Trojans. This means that they have scored 40 points in every single game to start this season. And on Friday night, the Rebels would waste little time finding pay dirt.
Another direct snap to Deshaun Welch running up the middle. He's got some room and some speed. Breaks one tackle. Deshaun Welch into the end zone for 6. The Central Rebels pick up an early score. 10 minutes and 19 seconds to go in this first quarter. The Rebels lead 6-0.
That dude, Deshaun Welch, would score 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, although Potosi would answer back.
Coleman now working out of the shotgun with 2 receivers on either side. Zane West to his right, takes the snap. It's a handoff to West up the middle. West moving out right, getting a couple blocks. Across the 10, the 5. Zane West into the end zone for a Potosi touchdown. Cuts it to a 14-6 ball game with 1:28 to go in the first quarter.
Obviously, it sounded like the crowd going crazy in the background there at Griff, but at the end of the day, that was all the offense that Potosi mustered, and we'll get back to the offense for the Central Rebels in a minute because we talked so much about them. Seeing them in person, I'm curious about your thoughts on the Central defense. It's underrated, the fact that outside of the MICDS game, they aren't giving up anything on the defensive end.
No, Potosi is the only team to score against Central besides MICDS. So their defense has just been locked down. It was really exciting just to watch that defensive side because you hear all about the offense and what they can do. But Potosi's got a really good offense. They were minus Blake Henson last week, and you look at the numbers on paper, Blake Henson is going to be the guy that jumps out to you, but they have a lot of good options. Blake Coleman is a pocket quarterback. He can sling the ball around. He's got a lot of weapons to throw the ball to. And then Zane West, of course, he steps up, and he has a very nice game on the ground as well. But for what Potosi has been able to do on offense this year, I saw them put up 61 points in a game as well. For them to only score 7 points, and for this defense to get after Blake Coleman for 3 interceptions, that people won't talk about the defense enough with that Central team, and that's going to be what really I think will lead them very far into the playoffs this year.
And Corey Schweiss will talk about it. Even back in the summertime when I went out to their camp, he said, I feel like our defense can be as good as our offense. And I think that was the reason why he was kind of ticked off after that MICDS game. He regards them as a great opponent. They're a terrific team, but he expected more out of his defense than that, and he made a few modifications after that. Same personnel, but he switched a few spots, and he feels like now he's got everybody exactly where he wants them.
Yeah, he was not happy to say the least about that MICDS game. He is going to be thinking about that one for the rest of the season. He was just said it's very uncharacteristic of his defense, of his team, to give up 59 points. Just like you said, Chad, things just kind of got past him that game. He made some changes, and they got back to, I think, what they're going to be looking like for the rest of the season.
They continue to creep up the Class 3 polls, and I think for very good reason. There are Central teams that are pretty good that would have maybe piled up the points that the Rebels did on Friday night. They probably still give up 35, 28 points, somewhere in that range. Nothing like that happened. This is one of the most complete teams in the state in Class 3. We need to start saying that. And here's a good reason why. Yeah, stout defense on Friday night. They took advantage of untimely penalties from Potosi. But as much as we talk about Deshaun Welch, some other guys are emerging, like one sophomore, Joe Bryant, who had one of the best games of his young career on Friday.
Bridges, shotgun, trips to his
Sorry, I was actually too far away. That's my mistake. I'm sorry.
cut across the middle, moving out to his right. He's got some blocks. Bryant across the 20, the 15, the 10, cutting inside into the end zone. Joe Bryant, the second touchdown of the night.
In talking with Corey Schweiss a couple of times early in the year and in preseason, he said he was tinkering with the spread offense. He was thinking about it. Stop thinking about it.
Yeah,
Coach.
no,
Stop thinking about it, Coach. 7 catches, 120 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's not just that Jet Bridges is clearly getting to the place where he needs to be at quarterback, as he had over 300 total yards in this game, but they've got the weapons on the edge, and Joe Bryant is one of those dudes.
Yeah, Joe Bryant was just great to watch. I mean, he's an underclassman that's starting on this team that's full of juniors and seniors. I think it's the only 2 sophomores. It's Kason Murphy and Joe Bryant. They start on the defensive side. They're 2 sophomores. Joe Bryant, the only sophomore on the offensive side. He was great. 7 catches, over 100 yards, a couple of touchdowns. He's been having a fantastic year too. No, this is a spread offense. There's not much to think about. The only time that there wasn't spread, they would have Deshaun Welch lined up alongside Bridges in the backfield when he was in the shotgun. But when they got into the red zone, they weren't doing spread. It was strictly, I don't know if there's a real name for it, but it's a super I formation.
I like that. I heard you. I call it a capital I.
A capital I, yeah.
I like the super I, though.
It's the super I because
it's a triple I.
Yes, yeah, there's 3 backs that are lined up back there. So I've never seen it before. I don't know how you do that, but it is a drastic difference from that spread offense that Corey Schweiss is running with this Central team. Something that he's used to, though. Corey Schweiss, he said that he likes having 2 or 3 backs in the backfield most of the time, but just with the talent that's on this team, the spread offense is the only thing that would work.
That's a Bo Schembechler special because I've seen Jim Harbaugh pull that out when he's coaching at Michigan. So mix of the old, mix of the new. It's all working as the Rebels improve to 4-1. Meanwhile, let's go to the flip side on this one. You throw this one out the window. I think it was Brent Roth at Perryville who made a point when they lost to Central earlier in the year. We're not going to be defined by 76-0. The Rebels are becoming a team where if you're like Potosi, this isn't going to be who you are. That final score doesn't reflect the ability that you have.
For Potosi? For Potosi, it's. I think if you were to ask Dylan Wyrick, the head coach of the Trojans, at the beginning of the season, do you think that after 5 games you would be 1-4? His answer would be absolutely not.
No.
I mean, they could have easily won those first 2 games. Things just have really not gone well for Potosi this year. Just, a couple plays that go the wrong way, some penalties here and there. He's a very positive guy, Dylan Wyrick. Love having conversations with him about his team. He's got a great offense, and it's going to be a tough finish for this team as well going throughout the season. But every time I've talked to Dylan Wyrick, he stayed positive, and it's a very he's got a special team that he's running over there. Just seeing the Trojans being 1-4. You couldn't have pictured that at the beginning of the season.
Well, the people that are maybe more disappointed than the actual Potosi players and coaches in that record is everybody in Potosi's district, because they're looking at that team and saying, that's not 1-4. And they're also saying, I don't want to play that team in the first round of the district playoffs if I can avoid it, which unfortunately, if Potosi loses, it lowers that seeding potentially.
Yeah, there's going to be a team that has to play Potosi in that first round of the state playoffs, and it's not going to make things easy, that's for sure. And, I mean, for the Trojans, just looking throughout the rest of the season, too, I mean, they play Perryville this week. Perryville's having a pretty solid year. I think they're at 3-2 right now. North County, they play them in Week 8. North County's rolling right now. I'll talk about them a little bit later on throughout the show as well, because I think they're doing a lot of good things. But it's just it's not the season that the Trojans pictured, I'm sure. but you don't want to play them in that first round of the playoffs. That's for sure, because they're going to come out ready to play.
Like you said, Griff, win opportunities. They have DeSoto, St. Charles West, Perryville, North County's going to be a tough one. But it's hard to tell what Potosi is, to tell you the truth, because you're impressed with them, but you ultimately are what your record says you are at the end of the year.
Yeah, I tend to believe, though, that regardless of that, they're going to be the team that makes you work the hardest. There's so many coaches that will have those top 3 seeds that are hoping, if they have to play a first-round playoff game, hopefully we're overmatched. The opponent is overmatched, and we can kind of walk our way through this, get some backups in. It's probably not happening with Potosi right now.
No, and I mean, depending on how things play out throughout the rest of the season, through the next 4 weeks, whatever the Class 3 District 1 standings end up being, it could be Central versus Potosi again in that first round of the playoffs. It could be Potosi versus Dexter. It's not the team that you want to be playing. We'll just rehash that.
No. They just play so hard and play so much better than the results have ultimately yielded to this point. They will be on the road for Perryville this Friday. We're going to talk more about Central and St. Jen a little later on, since that is going to be the game that we'll have for you on J98. There are a lot of games we still have to talk about, and we will go through the entirety of the Week 5 scoreboard right after this timeout, so stick around for more of the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable right here on J98.
This is
Give me 3. Welcome back. It's the Colts Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98. A reminder, of course, you can stream us on our YouTube channel, MyMo Info Sports. We are Twitter live at MyMo Info Sports, and you can listen to our audio at MyMoInfo.com as well. We went through a couple of our games. Just to recap the scores, Hillsboro holds on to beat Festus on KGF 34-29. Farmington shuts out Cape Central 21-0, and Central knocks off Potosi 64-7. So let's get you through the rest of the Week 5 scoreboard right now. Then we'll start with the St. Genevieve Dragons, who beat Fredericktown, final of 55-33. Head coach Jay Pope calling it a team effort.
Boss McBride carried it 5 times, 163 yards and 3 touchdowns. A couple other guys were able to carry it for another 100 yards or so and a couple touchdowns. And, Zach Boyer had another Zach Boyer game. I think he touched the ball twice for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, Coach Fowler had a great game plan coming in, and the kids did a really good job executing.
In the battle for bragging rights in the hometown of country music superstar Chris Jansen, it was St. Vincent knocking off Perryville 36-0. They put the sign up. I'm just reading it when I drive through. Along with their offense, Indians head coach Tim Schumer praised his defense or his team's D-liners for dealing with Perryville's pounding style.
Going in, they're a team that's going to, pound the rock.
I assume that's supposed to say D-liners.
I missed that when I looked over the
Friday. Get a lot of credit on the stat sheet, but they did their job all night long and allowed for us to be successful on that side of the ball.
Quite a win there for St. Vincent to get to 3-2. Another team that did just that is Windsor, as they hold on to beat DeSoto 24-16. Owls head coach Jeff Funston says it was a back-and-forth game.
They came out, got on us with the field goal start. We were able to extract a touchdown.
Yeah.
It kind of went back and forth for a little while. And, finally we were able to put one in there at the fourth quarter and kind of field off.
Meanwhile, we say it every week, but an impressive win for the Valley Catholic squad as they knock off St. Francis of Borgia 42-0. Warriors head coach Jed Nagger says defense played a big part in the victory.
They did a good job for us. They gave us some short fields. We were able to block the punt and force some turnovers. And, certainly good to see the defense, continue to play well. We've done a good job all season on that side of the ball, and that certainly continues tonight. Coach Keck does a great job with those guys.
Worth noting, I think, Nathan, that Valley, people that are following high school football around the area, once again, without their starting quarterback, Chase Fowler, his cousin coming in doing a terrific job. Borgia, traditional power, a little down this year now, 0-4, but for Valley just to not miss a beat there, impressive. And we did talk to Coach Nagger on the End Zone show. He said probably not this week for Chase Fowler, but he thought in a few weeks he'd be back.
It's eerie. One young Chase Fowler was thrust into play as a freshman because the then starting quarterback, Chase Dunlap, got hurt, missed the second half of the regular season, didn't come back, I think, until district semifinal time. Valley won a state title that year in 2019. But then again, it sounds like you can put anybody out there, or as Jed Nagger puts it, when it comes to the Fowler, it's Grandpa Bob. Must have been a heck of a football player. The Seckman Jaguars had a very happy homecoming as they beat Melville 54-20. Quarterback Cole Rubel ran 12 times for 256 yards. That was the big headliner, as always, with Seckman. But Jags head coach Nick Bayer says the whole team came out fast.
We got up 47-0 at half. A couple key turnovers that gave us a little short field. We didn't have any starter play in the second half. Our run game, they were giving us some things outside of our formation, and we took advantage of it. And then we were able to kind of go out wide with Ty Kitchen and Anthony Westbrook ball in the air and have some success too.
The Northwest Lions also got a nice win in the Suburban Conference as they beat Webster Groves 14-0. Lions coach Nick Hoth says, while the score might have reflected a defensive struggle, his team played well on both sides of the ball.
Defense did great. Obviously, Coach Fisher and the guys had a great game plan for Webster Groves this week, and our kids were playing around. I think every week we're getting better and better on the defensive side of the ball, and offensively helped us. Offense helped us defense too. I think we got the opening kickoff and drove down the field and finally punched it in 2 minutes into the second quarter. So we held the ball the whole first quarter and so.
Really sounds like they kind of just decided to sit on that football and pound their way to the win. Northwest. Elsewhere, the Jefferson Blue Jays knocked off Bayless 61-20. The North County Raiders, they had a happy homecoming. They beat Agape 50-14. We're going to hear from the St. Pius Lancers more in just a little bit as they beat Herculaneum 36-8. Otherwise than that, you had Crystal City falling at home to Kelly 35-20. Fox, by the skin of their teeth, falls at Lindbergh 21-20. Same happens to Grandview. They get beat by a point 28-27 at Father Tolton of Columbia.
Get right week for some of our teams out there. Nathan Seckman, with its first loss 2 weeks ago, gets right. Good impressive victory for them. Jefferson, the same thing, and North County, all rebounding for their first losses of the season. A couple of gut punches though. Fox and Lindbergh, extra point. In talking with Coach Tinker, they do one thing right out of a whole bevy of things they should have. He felt done better. They win that game, and then Grandview's got to be sick because they were up 21-0, and Father Tolton came back and won that one in the end, and so they really felt like that one got away.
Yeah, it hurts, but at the same time, your team is going into that game with a winning record, leaves with it, and you know that you've been playing good football, even if it doesn't quite show up, and yet another victory right there. Chad, I'll start with you for big winners this week.
Oh, man. I should have known, right? Well, it has to be Hillsborough. To start with, just the quality of win that they had and then the fashion in which they did it. I guess that's where I'll start. I might have a honorable mention at the end. We'll see.
It's not hard to see why. This is a team that, if you'll remember last year, they started 0-2. They won 2 in a row. They were feeling good, and then they lost the Festus game. And so it doesn't look like they've played maybe as well as they've had. Now you've got all the credentials to show how good you've been so far in the first half of the year.
I think St. Vincent also, because of the crosstown rival with the Perryville, and they won that going away. And I think that vaulted them into the 1 seed. Over unbeaten Hayti, even though they already have 2 losses, but just the way the numbers worked out, I vaulted them, I think, into the 1 seed in their district.
Yeah, so they've played a few bigger schools.
They have a little better schedule, and they play more games, too.
Yes. Central is in that mix. Perryville is a win over a bigger school. Mm-hmm. Valley Catholic is a bigger school. So, yeah, their schedule's been a little tougher, and they won a district game against Scott City in one of those victories. Fact of the matter is they're playing good football right now for Tim Schumer and company. My big winner for this weekend, I really think the St. Genevieve Dragons are so much better than 3-2, and it reflected in the way that they went out and just piled up the points this weekend. I think that is a great primer for them ahead of a huge game with Central coming up this Friday night. That is such a dynamic attack now that they have some of the other weapons that are in play that you heard Coach Pope talk about. Austin McBride carrying the football. That'll be such a huge boost because everybody zeroes in on trying to stop the Boyers. If you can add something else, it'll make this team really, really tough to stop, Garrett.
Yeah, that's definitely tough to stop completely. And I'm just going to go ahead and give you my winners for this week. And we're going to talk to one of them later. We'll have that. But the St. Pius Lancers, of course, they're a winner this week. They are at the top of the I-55 conference. Ever since Valley Catholic left, they've been the one to kind of sweep it up and take that conference. And I don't know. We've talked about it before the show went on air. There's something about the last name Rubel that makes you elite. And we're looking at Seckman right now. Bounce back victory against Melville, 54-20. Cole Rubel, wow, what an athlete he is.
Lots of Ruberts and Fowlers out there, right?
Rubels, Fowlers, and also the
Jobs. The high-level Joe,
profile
right?
Joe.
Yeah.
and Griff, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you really want to be an elite talent, just name your kid Joe Rubel.
Joe Rubel
yes,
good.
That's perfect. Yeah. That's exactly what you do.
Those are my 2 victors, and we'll talk to St. Pius here in a little bit, but Seckman, that's a huge bounce-back victory.
Yeah, Cole Rubel of Seckman, Nate Rubel of St. Pius, Ryan Rubel of Grandview you can throw into that mix. It just seems like that family's got good genes. Griff, big winner for you this weekend.
North County. North County is a big winner. I know that one of the big bounce-back winners that we had this week, and I think that was something that we could expect. I figured that after that 42-7 loss against Hillsborough, North County would be very motivated coming into this game against Agape. And they were. Scored 43 points in the first quarter. So that's not too bad. Pretty good over there. Ended up winning that game 50-14. And I think that's the more of a reflection of the North County team instead of that game against Hillsboro, and just the schedule for North County as well. I mean, that big game against Festus, I know we'll talk about that. Then they got Windsor, they got Potosi, they got Sullivan. They got a shot at going 8-1 this season.
Yeah, this has a chance, even with the disappointment of the Hillsboro game, to be one of the best seasons the program has ever had. Corey Schweiss talked about this a couple weeks ago after one of their big wins. But when you get up big on somebody and you have an older team, that's really a huge benefit because it gets younger guys into a varsity game and gives them live reps that you might not have had if you were playing a senior and junior heavy team and you were playing 10 nail biters.
The program builders,
yes.
You know, I mean, because when they step onto the field at the varsity level the next year when they're a starter, they don't take 3 weeks, right, to get adjusted because, like, no, I've seen this before. I know what this is about.
Yeah, there are kids on that central team that I think are proof of it. Jet Bridges at the quarterback spot.
And Kason Murphy getting a lot of backup quarterback reps as well, not only starting on the defense, but he's playing a lot of offense this season.
And North County is going to need a new signal caller next year. So trying to find a guy that gets some reps behind Nolan Reed, I'm sure, is a huge bonus for Brian Jones and company. So that is the schedule as it played out in week 5. Looking for the most part, I would say the majority of teams in the Parkland area, our regional radio listening area teams, have winning records to this point. So a lot of good football has been played, and we're hoping for plenty more in week 6. We'll get you to that entire schedule in just a little bit, but Garrett mentioned the St. Pius Lancers atop the I-55 conference. We have the pleasure of getting a chance to chat with head coach Dan Oliver and a few of their players about that fast start. We will likely talk a lot about what happened 2 weeks ago to them against Jefferson. We'll talk about a Herculaneum game they had this week and how they had to kind of rally in the second half, and we will look forward to this coming Friday night when they get into non-conference play. The St. Pius Lancers are our special guests when the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable continues right after this on J98.
defense is doing so bad.
We welcome you back. It's the Cole Stratton Equipment Football Roundtable here on J98. Thank you for tuning in this evening, and we are so pleased here at Applebee's in Farmington to get a chance right now to chat with our guests of honor this evening, the St. Pius Lancers. Head coach Dan Oliver is here, Tilden Watson, assistant coach, their athletic director. Got a couple of their veteran guys, Nate Rubel, Logan Jacobson, Michael Argana, and Colin Smith. Gentlemen, first of all, thank you for being here, and congratulations on 4-1. Coach, when we talked in the summer, you felt like throw 3-7 out your last year. You're so much better than that. How gratifying is it to see it show up in the results now?
Well, I mean, maybe at the end of the year it'll be more gratifying, but right now it's, you're in the thick of it and you just don't have time to really think about it. But I mean, obviously it's better than, where we were last year at this time and, playing our original schedule instead of getting games at 4:30 in the afternoon on Thursday and stuff like that with, some of the COVID stuff we had to deal with. But, so far we've been able to, get ready and play and get through our season so far. And, we've had some improvements in different areas and I think we're really just around the corner from breaking out and start really putting some points up. But it hasn't come yet. The other night we started in the second half, started scoring some points and made some things happen. But, so far defense has been keeping us going and with the offense, if they ever catch up, we'll be ready to go then.
2 years ago, that team that was 8-3 really hung its hat on defense. So it helps to be good on that end of the ball. Clearly, you're not just 4-1, but it's 4 wins in a row. And while you didn't get the job done in week 1, Monroe City's a team that year in year out is very good, and you were only down 6.5. How many do you feel like that kind of sparked guys and went, okay, we're clearly good enough to compete with really good teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think that night, we were dealing with some new guys up front, and we're still kind of finding our way through that. But the Heat was probably our biggest adversary that night, and Monroe City did their part too. But I really feel like we're looking for a rematch here down the road, and I think we're headed that way right now. They're 1 in the district, and we're number 2 in the district, and probably that's the way it ought to be right now at this point after the first week. But we're looking for that rematch, and I think when we get it, if we're where we think we can be, then we'll be fine. And if we're not, then I guess we'll get to go deer hunting. So
that'd be entertaining as all get for fans like us. So I would certainly like to see that. Coach Watson, you work with a lot of those young guys up front.
Yeah.
How do you feel the progress has been now through 5 games?
It's been lights out. We have 2 new guys, 2 new starters up there on the front, and actually all the way across the board, everybody's been starting besides Christian's the only starter we have back. And they've been growing every week. Each week they keep on communicating better. At the very beginning of the season, they wouldn't talk to each other, and then now they're starting to talk, communicate. And, we told them, hey, we don't care if you go up there and say, hey, I'm blocking him. We're going to double team him. Then do it. We're big enough, we're strong enough. Let's just push some people around. And, now it's starting to they're really starting to gel up front.
You got to get young kids out of their shells a little bit, I'm sure, especially at that line spot where, you face – even just 2 weeks ago, a Jefferson team, what they've built, where they get big dudes like Connor Armstrong and Jackson Combs, you have to tell those guys up front, hey, you got to get mean if you want to be able to beat the opposition.
Yep, that's one of the things I always tell the offensive line. I'm like, we always go into the trenches. Everybody calls it trenches. I'm like, why do they call it trenches? And I'm like, football got really big back in the early 1900s when World War I. And it's trench warfare. It was nasty, deadly. I mean, it's I had my brother's back, my brother had mine, and we went. And that's where trench warfare came from. So you have to get down there and get nasty sometimes. I mean, just dig down, root down, and just drive them.
Yeah, and it's worked out for you guys. Most of the night 2 weeks ago against Jefferson was an example of being able to grind the team. Then the ending happened, and I want to start with Colin Smith because you were involved in that. You've talked about it before, but, I mean, what did it feel like when that ball came out of your hands on that Hail Mary and then when you saw Dabrian go up and grab it?
Honestly, I was at a loss of words because, you never expect that to happen. I mean, I always have faith in them to catch the ball, but maybe not make that play afterwards. I was thinking, we step out of bounds, we maybe get another quick one off, and he just took off, went the rest of the way, did it all himself.
Yeah, and Coach, I do want to kind of quickly talk about Dabrian because That catch last week, and then this past week, he had 2 sacks in the win over Herky.
Actually, he had 5, but
Yes.
I don't know if there was a mistake on the stats or whatever. But he had 5.
I saw 13 tackles, though. I know for sure. I know for sure he was everywhere. Yeah. He's a kid with unlimited athletic potential. How nice is it to see him coming into his own?
Well, right, and not only that, but we didn't have him last year. He had knee surgery, and he was out all last year, and he didn't get to come back into basketball until well after the season started. So, we were 3-7 last year, and I could have definitely used another athletic body like his. And he's a football kid. He's played football, growing up and everything. So, getting him back, and now he's really kind of getting into the swing of it. And he's not new, but missing last year kind of put him a little bit behind. And he had a good summer. He did a lot of good stuff for us in the summer, but now it's just really becoming something special to watch. And he's starting to figure out the offense again and get some things. So, probably this week he'll get a lot more carries, get a lot more action. And so hopefully we'll continue to see his name pop up in the headlines here and there every other week or every week or whatever,
There's a lot of guys who are kind of doing it for the first time as quote unquote big time role players. Austin McGuckin, Kyle Smith, Dabrian, and Logan is one of the older guys. How much did you have to kind of do the coaching up this summer of telling them, hey, you're going to have more responsibility than ever this year. This is how you have to do it.
Yeah, we only have so many coaches, so whatever the players can do on the field, because they have better vision than the coaches, we see more. So we just do our part in telling them what's right, what's wrong, and guiding them in the right direction.
And it's paid off so far in the results that you guys have had. I know, Coach, this week, 36-8, it won't necessarily completely tell that tale because of the fact that it was they were up by 2 going into the second quarter. You got that safety, and it was still tied at halftime. What were the adjustments you feel like that were made?
Well, I mean, I think we just, Colin settled down, started hitting his receivers, and started catching a few of them for him. But, then we spread the ball out, and Austin just kind of figured out what his job was this week. And, when he took off and started hitting the corners and the edges and stuff, it was pretty much hard to stop. You can't stop everything. And when he's running all over the edges and getting out there on him like that and then turning it up, and he, put his foot in the ground and hit up the sideline and got in on the first one and then went out just, 1 yard line, 2 yard line, whatever it was on the second one. That really kind of gave us just that little extra boost, where we weren't, we weren't counting on Nate for every yard we were getting there, like, had been last year with the case. And then this year, early on, a lot of our big plays came because we were just giving it to Nate. And it makes it awful easy to play defense on a team when we only have one weapon. And so some of our weapons are starting to come around and start to come out and get comfortable with each other. Like you said, we've got a lot of new guys. They've been on the team, but they haven't been on the varsity. There's a lot of difference between Monday and Friday, and they're finding some of that stuff out little by little. But the growth in the last 2 or 3 weeks has been probably one of the best things that's been happening for us.
I would imagine there's that nice deep breath knowing that off the high of the Jefferson game, and you turn around, it's tied at halftime against Herky. You would think, a team full of guys that are kind of doing it at the varsity level for the first time, they would suffer that hangover and it would carry into a 4-quarter game. I'm sure that was nice to see the second half and the way that your guys just took control of the game from that point on.
Right. I mean, we talked about that at halftime, that, it was kind of a one of those games, like you said, where, you come off the super emotions of the week before, one of your biggest rivals and the way we won it at the end and all that. And, it's kind of hard to not pat yourself on the back for too long and whatever. But, we watched the film Monday and I said, now it's over. And I don't know if everybody got the memo. But then at halftime we talked and we made some adjustments and, again, the defense kept us in the game, So if we hadn't been playing good defense, I would have been a little bit more worried about it. But I wasn't happy, but at the same time, I felt like we were going to come out on top. And then, we settled down and started doing some things that we, work on every day, and it came around our way. But it was a little tense at first.
At the end of the day, though, it's a win, and it's another really good game for your defense. Michael Argana, I want to talk to you about it because you've had a big role along with Nate Rubel at that linebacker spot. Jefferson's 20 points is the highest you've given up since Monroe City. So you guys are getting the job done on that end. From your perspective at that linebacker spot, what do you see that you look around and go, oh, this is why we've been so good so far?
I mean, I think it's just everybody doing their roles. Everyone knows they have a specific job to do, and they get it done, and they're not – no one on the team is selfish and say, I want to make the play, I want to be the big star. Everyone knows their assigned role, and they do it to perfection, and that's why our defenses run so well.
Listening to guys when I was in high school talk about football practice, they always said, defense day is my favorite. I want to go play defense. Is that true for you?
Yes, sir. It's definitely my favorite. It's just the time to do what I do best, and it's just the funnest for me, to be honest.
Yeah, you get to hit somebody.
Yeah.
That's the real reason. Nate Rubel, you've hit people, you've carried the football, you've caught it, you've done a lot over the last now year and a half, and yet we were just talking about it. Colin had a great game running the ball on Friday. We're seeing guys like Kyle carry it more. Eli Frimmel is used as a receiver. Do you feel more this year than ever? Oh, I don't have to score every time I touch the ball. We got help.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that. I like, a lot of the guys, maturity. They're getting mature now. Last year was for Colin's first year at quarterback, and now he's got a year experience. So, you can trust those guys to make the play now. And I've always trusted him to make a play. I think he's a good quarterback.
Well, I was about to say before the two picks that happened this weekend, which we won't dwell on too much. You were putting up really good numbers, Colin, throwing the ball. The offense as a whole was clicking. I'll go around the table, Nate, Logan, and Colin, and we'll start with you, Nate. Did you get a sense going back in the summer, oh, this will be the best offense I've been around since I've been here?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Being my senior year, I'm playing against, kids my age or younger. Like as a freshman, I was coming in scared. Now I'm playing against guys 3 years older. So we definitely got a good group of seniors, good weight room attendance. We're always in there, always trying to get other people in there. So definitely ready. I was ready for this year with everything we had.
Logan, I imagine you want to be catching those passes. I'm sure those deep balls. But just from watching it going back to the summer, did you feel like, oh, this is the most complete we'll be on offense?
Yeah, you could just see our progress each week. We're just getting better, building off each week, and I had a good feeling we'll be good this season.
That said, Colin, you run the show. I'm curious. Are there any specific things as you now start the second half of the year that you still feel like I really need to work on this and get better at?
Just quicker decisions. I mean, I need to be more, as Coach says every week, aggressive. I'm coming up and I'm sometimes getting the right reads, but I'm doing it a little late. And then, like with the pick the second pick the other night, it was just the guy was wide open, but I waited too long, and the defender was able to recover. Where if I throw that ball, a second earlier, Frimmel's walking into the end zone wide open.
Yeah, and hopefully we see more deep balls going forward that work out for you guys. Before we talk specifically about Donovan, St. Vincent still left here in the second half of the year has always been a tough conference game. You'll get a look at Valley at the end of the year, even though it's not a conference game. I'm sure you looking around and you say to yourself, this has been nice. The next 4 games, and then whoever we get to start the playoffs, we're not going to just walk by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, our conference has got some good teams, good competition. I mean, obviously Valley has stepped away, and that kind of opens up the gate for some other people to get in there, and hopefully we're going to be one of them. But no conference game. We talked about that, even last week. Herky came out. It's a traditional game. It's a neighborhood game, and they were ready to play, and they were hot early, and we had to kind of stand there and fight them off a little bit, and then come back out. But I anticipate St. Vincent doing the same thing. I mean, we were up on them last year, and then they just started packing away with their passing game, and they found some things they liked, and we couldn't get it shut down. And so I anticipate something similar to that. Only I'm hoping for a better ending than we had. But in Bayless, I mean, we're going to play them. They've been struggling and all that, but you never know. It'll be a homecoming game and a lot of distractions, and it'll see if we're mature enough to look past a lot of those things and make sure we focus on our jobs, on the field, and do that part for homecoming. That's our job, and then the rest of them, that's somebody else's job. But it's going to be it's going to be a struggle for the rest of the way through. I mean, because there's a lot of guys that haven't been there before and haven't tasted success. And when sometimes you get success, that breeds other problems and other things. And you just got to keep your level head and level approach to it. And each game is a new challenge and new opponent. And you have to take every one of them serious and don't look past them, because if you do, the one in front of you might trip you up. So
you want to make sure that you're playing your best ball now, even as good as it's been in these first 5 games. Donovan, on Friday, I think you've had them as opponents in the past. What have you learned about this particular version of them so far?
Well, I think they're pretty much like the team they had last year. They like to run the double wing and come with a lot of motion and back and forth and pull the guards and do some things like that. They do have a little spread package that they'll run from time to time, and they've got some good ball players. They got a decent sized line, and I think it'll be a nice game. It'll be our work will be cut out for us, but it's one of those good challenges that if we can rise up to it, it's going to be a great learning experience and a great step forward for us, hopefully. And I think in my heart of hearts we're going to be fine and get a win. But obviously those guys down there are probably somebody down there saying the same thing right now. But we'll be all right, and we just got to get in there and get nasty and get working and grind it out.
Coach Watson, defensive end up front, trying to stop that attack where they'll run the double wing. Yes. Obviously, that offense is predicated on misdirection. Correct. So what do you tell defensive linemen to stop it?
It's defensive linemen. I told the defensive ends this week, you're going to be the glory guy, because when you're cutting in towards guard, either you're going to go right in the hip pocket and you'll be in the backfield right where the handoff is, or you're going to be the guy who's going to be the martyr, because you're stopping those guards and tackles and getting up to the linebacker. Biggest key is getting linebackers free, reading the guards, because the guards will take you to their play every time. I mean, you just watch your guards will take you. And these guys here, these two of the linebackers, I mean, they read that's what they do. And safety does the same thing. Read the guards, they will take you to the play every time, and they got really good at it.
It's not always a glory job to be the hog molly against the option attack. You just try to eat some space. But if you do your job, it works out well.
Yes.
I want to wrap up going around the room for the players here. I know 9 wins, conference, district. Those are the goals you guys have all talked about. But what would it mean for you guys as older players and seniors to be able to accomplish a couple of those goals, especially given last year? I'll let you start, Nate.
Yeah, it means a lot. It's your last chance to go get it done. We were close my freshman and sophomore year, definitely really close my sophomore year, and we a little bit far from it my junior year, but it's here, it's reachable, we can do it, and we can compete in state, and we all want to see it happen.
I think it means more for the program than just for us, because this will be a big building point for us to bring in more kids, just overall make the program better and stand out more.
Michael?
Kind of what Nate said. Just it's a big accomplishment, because it's like us. It's our last chance to do it, and it's something we could leave on a good note. And a little bit of Logan said, leave it for the program ahead, and kind of be an example of what we can accomplish if you just put the work in, do what you're told, and I guess just participate.
I'm sure it probably felt like after last year, we were making so much progress. We won all those games. What happened? And now it feels like it's getting back. Colin, I won't ask for smack talk. I'll just ask you the same question about what it would mean to get close to the goals that I know you guys have set.
They all touched on some key points, but I'm really thinking about even seniors from the past years, who have worked their butts off, especially last year with all the COVID stuff and just everything going the wrong way. Knowing those guys, seeing them on the sideline, seeing them on Friday nights, and they come down and show up for us because they want it just as bad as we do, even though they're not in the uniform anymore.
A lot of guys the last 2 years, Mike Bollinger, Riley Nager, that have played very well. I know they would appreciate seeing you guys finish off what's been a great start to the year. Congrats on that. Best of luck with Donovan Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Oliver, Tilden Watson, the coaches, Nate Rubel, Logan Jacobson, Michael Argana, and Colin Smith, players representing the St. Pius Lancers that are with us here this evening. We'll get you back to munching on some good food here from Applebee's in Farmington in a minute. We'll take a time out, come on back, and tell you about the rest of the Week 6 schedule in just a sec. It's the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98.
Thank you.
Dear Exit Strategy.
We are back. Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98. Coles Tractor and Equipment in Farmington, home of the LS Tractor. It's on Highway 32, about 3 miles east of Farmington. Thank you again to Amy Cousins and her crew at Applebee's in Farmington for hosting us here for our fourth show of the year as we go from Week 5 into Week 6. Very much appreciate them having with us every week. Let's dive into the Week 6 schedule. We're going to talk about the games that we'll have for you on regional radio in a minute, but we want to cover everything else. Just a rapid-fire run through them real quickly here. The Potosi Trojans are going to visit the Perryville Pirates. The Fredericktown Blackcats will head to DeSoto to take on the Dragons. The Jefferson Blue Jays are going to St. Genevieve to play the Valley Catholic Warriors. The Windsor Owls visit the Hillsboro Hawks. The Herculaneum Blackcats, they'll be in Ditmer to take on the Grandview Eagles. The St. Vincent Indians go to Bayless. The St. Pius Lancers, as we just mentioned, are going to be hosting Doniphan. The Fox Warriors entertain Melville. Northwest Lions play host to Lindbergh. Seckman Jaguars take on Ladue. And the Crystal City Hornets travel to Sherwood. Things that jump right off the bat of this one for me. We'll talk a little bit, I'm sure, in a minute about Jefferson and Valley Catholic. But kind of the proof of how good the Grandview Eagles have gotten the last couple of years is their ability to win this game with Herculaneum and win it handily. Once upon a time, this was a game that was kind of a back-and-forth struggle that Herky would find a way to just eke out. And 2 years ago, Grandview got a win that has started a little winning streak that they're at least hoping continues against Herky. And coming off such a disappointing loss to Father Tolton, you would think they're going to be rearing and ready to go.
I like the Fredericktown DeSoto game, right? Somebody's getting a win. I mean, all the work in the offseason and this year and everything they've been, somebody is getting a win in this one, Fredericktown to DeSoto. And I love what Seckman is doing with the Seckman was a team that, 8 years ago, that was a team that had trouble getting wins, no matter who they played. And now they've beefed up their schedule, and they're only lost to Hazelwood Central, the 8th-ranked team in Class 6. Ladue's ranked 10th at the Class 5 level. So I love what Seckman is saying. You know what? We're better as a program. Let's go test ourselves.
A year ago, Fox won that wild game at Ladue that got them a conference title. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things late in the year that signified that was one of the best teams in the state. And Fox obviously proved it by coming so close to winning in the Class 5 semis. Seckman gets that win. They are going to really start to turn some heads, I think, if they are able to get that victory on Friday night. Garrett, I noticed you were grabbing the schedule. What jumps out to you this week?
I'm actually looking at this Potosi and Perryville game. I'm not too sure, Griffin. You might know the answer to this if Blake Henson's back. Do you know when?
I do not know. I know that he was out last week, and Dylan Wyrick did not clarify if he would be out for the season or not. It was a whole reevaluation process.
They are holding out hope more than before about him perhaps coming back.
He said that there was a chance that he could come back during the season, so it wasn't anything he was ruling out. Not sure what updates they got on Blake Henson this week, but
all right. Well, I was just wondering because we definitely want him to get back healthy. Of course, he's a dynamic guy, but seeing Potosi, especially without Blake Henson against this Perryville team that they're not explosive, but this Perryville team, they'll run you down. They'll put their nose to the grindstone and they'll hit you straight up. So I'm really looking at this Potosi at Perryville game, see how Potosi responds without Blake Henson, see if they can still be as dynamic as an offense as we all know they are, and how they respond to that physical matchup.
I'm also a little curious about Windsor and Hillsboro because we just talked with St. Pius. Dan Oliver had some great thoughts on how they were trying to come down from the emotion of their win against Jefferson. It led to kind of a sloppy half against Herculaneum before they pulled away to win that game.
Herky was up 8-6 in that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you guys talked all about it, but yeah.
Yeah, only a safety by the St. Pius defense got the game tied at 8 going into halftime. It was not the greatest of performances for the first 24 minutes, and then they turned on the Jets. Maybe Hillsboro suffers the same thing after an emotional win against Festus. Windsor, meanwhile, really worth noting, it's kind of funny. Jeff Funston was their offensive coordinator and play caller under Alex DeMatteis. He's still running the offense, and yet, minus the loss to Festus, their defense has been really good. It's been the calling card of the team. If they go out and they can do enough to slow down Jackson Patterson and Austin Romaine through the first half, that'd be a huge sign of where they're at defensively.
You just said a mouthful, though, right there.
Yeah.
That if is a capital I and a capital F.
Yeah, I mean, even in limited carries, Austin Romaine still went over 100 yards, I think, this last week against Festus. And Patterson, I cannot stress this enough. It looks like he gets better as the game goes along. It's incredible. And that long flowing hair that he's got is just whipping around the way that he's been running the football.
Majestic in the wind.
Yes.
Kind of like Griff's.
Yeah, Griff
has.
I got a mane.
head.
I got a mane.
Yeah, this is a joke that only works on radio and not on the YouTube stream.
Yes.
So please don't pay attention to it. Griff, any games from Week 6 that really jump out to you?
Yeah, Jefferson, Valley Catholic. I would love to be at that game. I would love to see how Jefferson is going to play Valley Catholic. I mean, Valley, they've kind of steamrolled their way through all the teams that they've had this year. But Jefferson still, I think they were receiving votes in the top 10 for Class 2 coming into this week. I would just love to see how that game plays out. I mean, it's the last chance that Alex Rugley is going to get to coach against Valley. And, he's a very passionate guy. He's got a lot of energy. He's going to have his team coming into this game really ready to bring it to Valley.
And I'm sure that Jefferson is going to have a real chip on their shoulder coming into that game, especially after that Hail Mary loss against the Lancers that we just talked about. I mean, this could be a absolute different Jefferson Blue Jay team than what we saw at the beginning of the season.
They certainly had the chip on their shoulder this last week, 61 points against Bayless. They left a statement on offense, and I will say Valley, one of the 2 losses for Jefferson last year, that was coming directly out of the COVID pause that Jefferson had. They had to take 2 weeks off in quarantine, and the first game they got back was Valley Catholic
Welcome back,
last year. I know Alex Rugley believes they were better than the loss that they suffered and the margin of defeat that they suffered in that game, so I'm sure he feels like they're going to put up a far better effort. 2 years ago, they were pretty scrappy even in defeat at Valley Catholic in a loss, so I think he feels like they're in position to make it interesting to some extent in St. Genevieve. One thing is for sure, the effort's not going to be questioned. Based on the way Jefferson went this week against Bayless, those kids are clearly dialed in, locked in, and fired up every week.
Yeah, it's definitely no David versus Goliath matchup in any way imaginable. Jefferson is going to come into this game with a lot of energy, but that's, the mentality that these teams playing Valley come into these games. That's how they feel when they play the Warriors. They come in there and they're like, that's the team at the top. We want to take our shot at them. We're going to give them all that we got. So Valley's definitely used to, handling teams that are coming in with everything they got. Made it look easy this far, but I'm not sure if Alex Rugley and his Jefferson team are just going to be another step in the road for Valley Catholic.
It's a house money situation when you're as good as Jefferson. As long as you play well, you feel like you can take something from it, even if you can't quite get a victory. So that is the entirety of the schedule for Week 6, save, of course, for the games that we have for you on regional radio. They are some outstanding matchups. We're going to take a timeout, come on back, get you a Mizzou update, and we will run through our broadcast games for Week 6. That is on the way after this on the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable right here on J98.
Which one is...
Applebee's Bar and Grill in Farmington. Hi, my name is Amy Cousins, general manager of your local store. Maybe start out with a couple of appetizers.
Wait, what? Okay.
Mozzarella.
Three and a half gravy, please.
Thank you. The guy with the gold shirt, the full beard. Or is he only have?
No, with the hat.
Okay.
Steaks, ribs, seafood.
I didn't get a good look at that. I got that.
You're trying. We're trying. You're doing what? Pius and Vincent in like 2 weeks?
Next week.
I think. Next week?
Yeah. So I wanted to...
Whether you're
Should be a decent game.
Yeah.
St. Vincent is not terrible.
No, I think it was just that week 1. Whoever they played week 1, they got...
Well, they played Central.
It was Central, yeah. They got blown out, and I think that was just Central.
Central has... the St. Vincent defense has held Central to their lowest point total of the season. The 40-0 loss is the fewest points Central has scored, MICDS included.
Yeah.
At Country Health Center, we are responsible.
I'm here on the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. I'm J90 here at least this week. Nathan Gertz, Garrett Davenport, Griffin Weinberg, and Chad Speaker. Garrett is still trying to put his head around the concept of geography as a whole.
Whoa! That's a bold statement.
I didn't realize that was one of the problems at Appalachian State. Is there's
Hold on. Okay, we don't have
departments.
what these conferences and class and districts in North Carolina. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah. You brush up on it. You go to Mish's website and get relatively familiar
I'm
with
going
it.
to take a whole college course on this because I'm still confused.
I'm going to talk about the Missouri Tigers, much as it pains me, because they lost a nail-biter this Saturday to the Boston College Eagles, 41-34. It was actually a pretty good start for the offense, but the game would be tied at 17 when we went to halftime. Boston College went as far up as 10 before Connor Bazalak put a little comeback together. Harrison Nevis nailed a 56-yard field goal as time expired to send the game to overtime. That is tied for the longest field goal attempted in FBS college football and field goal made this season. Didn't matter, though, because the Eagles scored on the first drive of OT, and Bazalek with an interception.
I was just going to say about kind of that field goal, man, that would have been good for 60. Nevis got him a leg. And I'm also talking about Connor Bazalak and just kind of the drive that he put together, getting to the 39-yard line in just a short amount of time. I mean, hey, I understand they're 2-2, but I mean, hey, the Tigers got them something.
It wasn't Connor's best day, but you're right. That 2-minute that drive with, I want to say, no timeouts and about 30 seconds left.
30 seconds. Yeah, but played very well.
He really shined in that regard. The thing that didn't shine for Mizzou was the run defense. 275 yards allowed on the ground. That's not going to help you out in any conference, certainly not in the SEC. And the Tigers are returning to league play this weekend. They host a team that also has a few woes of their own, the Tennessee Volunteers. That's another 11 a.m. kickoff, so pregame coverage will start at 9 o'clock. You can also, of course, tune in for Tiger Talk tomorrow. Eli Drinkowitz, if you somehow find your way to Columbia, I think it was last week, he was offering the crowd free beers at one point. So maybe go and watch Tiger Talk in person.
We should drive to Columbia on Saturday morning.
Yeah, at the very least, you can listen to it on AM 800 KREI and AM 1400 KGF, 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
No free beer for listening, though, unfortunately.
I wish he did that at App State. What the heck, man?
Oh, yeah. He was trying to get the crowd going out at Cheerleaders Pub, and maybe he'll hand out more free beer tomorrow.
It's America's
night.
coach right there.
Yes, sir. Again, Mizzou and Tennessee, 11 a.m. kickoff Saturday, so 9 a.m. is when pregame coverage starts on KREI and KGF. Before all that, though, there is high school football Friday night. We've got 3 excellent games on regional radio airwaves. Let's start on AM 800 KREI. Chad, Poplar Bluff coming to town for homecoming for Farmington. 2 conference wins where the defense has played really well. Farmington has won convincingly. As much as the homecoming distractions stuff is always talked about by coaches, I'm sure Eric Krupe probably feels like this is a rivalry we've historically dominated. We should go out and win another conference game handily again.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be that easy, but a couple of 4-1 teams. Bluff has a nice team. Farmington's overall body of work a little bit more impressive. Bluff with wins against Agape and DeSoto that don't jump off the page. To me, probably the most instructive game for them is the only one they lost. They played Jackson within 18 points. And to play Jackson within 18 points is pretty darn good. Farmington has won 3 in a row in the series. Bluff, though, has a guy that's in his 4th year starting behind center. And traditionally, when Bluff has a guy that has experience at the quarterback spot, they're usually pretty good because they run that spread. He's got a lot of targets. And he's got a pro name, by the way, Cannon Carr. Love the name. But he's throwing for 259 a ball game. So Bluff's moving it up and down the field pretty well. I think this is going to be a really good game. This one to me is one that's going to go late in the 4th to decide it.
I did get to watch Cannon Carr in a game against DeSoto last year. As a junior, he was already in pretty complete command of that offense, and they were getting there. You could tell with the skill guys. So yeah, this will be tougher than Farmington has had the last couple of weeks for sure. It is worth noting, if there's an area, the quote-unquote little things that'll get it done, I feel like Farmington in the 2 conference games, Sikeston and Cape Central, the second half has been their better half. They pulled away from a tie game against Sikeston to win that, and then while the offense didn't necessarily have a huge second half, they put a 0 up on the scoreboard again last week against Cape Central, and based on how good Bluff is getting offensively, you are probably going to be on the field with your defense at the very end if you're trying to win it.
Common opponent is Sikeston. Poplar Bluff did a little bit more offensively against Sykeston. Farmington's defense was a little bit. But yet again, Farmington is going to play in lower scoring games because they have the rushing attack. They'll run. I mean, that's the way they go about doing things. So if this is a shootout, Bluff is probably your pick. If it's a little bit lower scoring, I think I take Farmington.
There are times I feel like Eric Krupe in the play calling and the way they're running it, he's deliberately trying to hold the football for as long as possible. There will be a couple drives you would feel like on Friday night where he tries to do that.
Well, that's exactly, in fact, Nathan, what they did last year. They were up 10 in the fourth quarter. Bluff scores, they make it a 3-point game. Farmington got the ball back with about 7 minutes left, ran the whole clock. So that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, he will sit on that thing if Eric Krupe can have his way, and hopefully Farmington has their way. Homecoming game, Hale Memorial Stadium, as the Knights will host Poplar Bluff. That one is on AM 800 KREI. On AM 1400 KGF, we have had back-to-back weeks of just thrilling finishes. We've got another really good battle this week for Jefferson County Friday Night Football. Garrett, as the Festus Tigers look for the rebound from the loss to Hillsboro, and they go to take on North County and Bonne Terre. I got to do this game last year. It was far and away the best game I saw in the regular season. Festus scores at the last minute to win it 39-35. You would hope for something like that again, but there are going to be some new faces on both sides, which will make it a little interesting.
And and another thing, this is a real big revenge game for North County, because not only did they lose that game, they lost the district championship game to Festus as well. So I know when the schedules came out, I'm sure North County had this game with a big old red circle, circled about 4 or 5 different times. This is going to be a very, very fun game. It's a really good matchup. But when I was kind of thinking about it, it's like the elements. You're going air versus earth right here, because we like Festus and their air raid kind of offense. I mean, you can put quotations on that because they are trying to figure out how to run the football. But this is a North County team. They don't really pass the ball that much, but they have a really good rushing attack. So it's going to be kind of afflicting viewpoints and just really it's going to be fun. I really can't say much more about it.
If that's the case, North County might hope for that rain to come down Friday. I mean, we could get a little bit of rain Friday. That could play into it.
Hopefully I'm inside for that.
It's fun when you talk about that Festus offense. A.J. Ofadale, when he was at Mizzou, had a chance as a position coach to work with Josh Heupel as the offensive coordinator there.
Who's coming back to Mizzou this week,
yes,
by the way.
Tennessee head coach now in UCF. And Josh's big thing is the tempo. They try to go as fast as possible. Festus runs a no huddle, but they're deliberate with their tempo. They're going to do the right thing to get the play call in. The one thing he took away from Coach Heupel, I know, is they are a spread team that is going to kind of throw it to set the run up. Conversely, North County is a ground and pound. However,
they can throw it.
I would say, and to that point, the most shotgun snaps that they took a year ago in a game, I feel like, and the most that they threw it was that first meeting with Festus. Nolan Reed had a lot put on his shoulders. He mostly rose to the challenge. He'll have to do it again Friday night, you would think.
He's kind of streaky, too. Like, once he gets hot, he can really start hitting targets.
100%. I think this game's going to come down to what Nolan Reed can do throwing the ball. And the one thing I know about North County, they don't have a Carter Kekek kind of guy. So who steps up in that receiver role? I know they got Teagan Keller, who's been very phenomenal for them. Carson Elliott's another guy that's played real good football for them. So, yeah, Nolan Reed can sling it, but who can he sling it to? And on the inverse, look at Festus. They got a lot of guys they can sling it to. Cole Rickerman has been spreading that football around. I looked. They have 4 receivers with over double-digit receptions. All of them have at least 1 touchdown, at least 150 yards. I mean, and talk about Armar Branch. Oh, my goodness.
It's up to I think, close to 580 yards and 5 TDs. He's averaging 34 yards a catch. I mean, he's been pretty good. Yeah, he's been an insane weapon.
But 95 boosted the average, didn't it?
You almost forget that Isaac Stuka, who's had a great year, is averaging like 20 yards a catch, too. They have big play dudes all over. And you mentioned the revenge game aspect, and who does North County throw it to? Not only is there no Carter Kekek, but the next best weapon for North County a year ago throwing the ball as a receiver, he's wearing black and gold now. Eric Roos, the big tight end, has transferred over to Festus, has been very effective for them. I wouldn't be shocked if Job Smith splits out wide a lot. A year ago, it was give Carter Kekek the ball as much as possible. Job is clearly the guy this year for North County.
I think he's going to carry a lot of the load, and Job Smith, he's more than capable. I mean, he has been absolutely phenomenal all season long. He's got 11 touchdowns, and that's not including his 2 touchdowns as a punt returner. So, I mean, he's a guy that kind of dominates the game at all 3 phases of the game. And, it's hard to have one guy you really rely on. But with a guy like Job Smith, you have 100% trust in him. And I can see Brian Jones saying, hey, we got to feed him the football today.
There are a lot of playmakers on the field in Bonne Terre Friday night. We look forward to having for you Festus in North County on AM 1400 KJF.
With the way Nathan, with the way you guys are talking about this game, I may play hooky Friday night and just go sit in the stands and watch
go to that one instead.
Yeah,
You don't get that. You don't get to do that because you go to a game that is, I think, equally intriguing and exciting as a couple of rivals meet up in the MAFC White Division on J98, the Central Rebels and the St. Genevieve Dragons. The scare that they threw into Kennett, I think you wipe the Valley Catholic score out. You take that loss and you go with the 3 wins. Central has played St. Gen rather, they've played really good football, and they're not going to be intimidated by this matchup.
Yeah, and the Valley game, I think you're right. I think you need to throw that one out the window. That's not reflective of who St. Genevieve is as a football team. I think it's more reflective of Valley Catholic and what they are, the way that they've been winning this whole year. And for St. Gen, they had some issues that some off-the-field problems that week, and they didn't even have their head coach on the sidelines. He was coaching from the press box, and it's not like Hugh Freeze at Liberty coaching.
No hospital bed,
no hospital bed, anything like that. So, weird circumstances for the Dragons in that game. And you said it, lose by 2 to Kennett. That's the only other loss they have besides that Valley Catholic game. Corey Schweiss, after the win against Potosi last Friday, he said that St. Genevieve is the best team that they're going to face the rest of the way on their schedule. I think it was, the emotions of after the game. They're going to be playing some other good teams throughout the season, but it's also about the history that he has with Jay Pope. Schweiss, his first year at Central, he coached against Jay Pope when he was a player at Valley under Judd Nagger. So they go back. They still keep in contact with each other, and there's a very close fraternity there with a lot of the coaches around the area. So it's a meaningful game for both sides, and the fact that there's that relationship between Pope and Schweiss, and the fact that St. Genevieve is just a very, very good team under a first-year head coach. So I am very excited for it. As much as I would love to see that game with North County and Festus, I'm very excited that I'll be on hand in St. Genevieve for this one.
This feels like the first one for Central on their schedule other than MICDS. In fact, I feel like not quite to that extreme, but almost in the same vein. This is one where the defense has played great. They may still play well, and you may still have to go point for point because St. Gen's offense is really starting to hum right now.
They can score points. They know how to put points up on the board. There's no doubt about that. And, the defensive side of things, I wonder what St. Genevieve is going to be able to do to limit that offensive Central. That's the question for any game that the Rebels plays. How do you stop the offense from scoring points? Because right now they're averaging over 60 points a game after putting up 63 or 64 rather to against Potosi. So, that's really what it's going to come down to. Sure, you can score points, but you're going to need to either outscore Central, which is very, very difficult, or you're going to need to stop them on some occasions on some of their drives. Potosi stopped Central on a 4th down in the game last Friday night, which was, great. They had some momentum from that. They turned that into a touchdown for themselves. St. Genevieve is going to need to find ways to stop Central, and not only do that, but convert that turnover on downs into points themselves. So that's going to be the challenge.
Yeah, they've got to take advantage of every opportunity, the little changes in the game, the turnovers, the penalties. They have to make it work, and that's the thing. I feel like they can. They've got a team in place that has been building as good as they got in the second half of last year to this moment right now where they get a shot at their big-time conference rivals. Central and St. Genevieve on J98 on Friday night. AM 800 KREI will have the Farmington homecoming game as they host Poplar Bluff. And AM 1400 KJF Festus visits North County. Really good slate of games, and we cannot wait to bring it to you on Friday evening. We'll have the Flakes Equipment pregame show coming your way starting at 6 o'clock on all regional radio stations. Kickoff for all those games is at 7. Cannot wait for it. Can't wait to be back here next week to recap it all for you and look ahead to Week 7. Appreciate you being with us here tonight. Thanks again to Amy Cousins and company for hosting us live from Applebee's in Farmington. For Garrett Davenport, Griffin Weinberg, and Chad Speaker, I'm Nathan Gertz. Appreciate you joining us for the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98. Until next week, so long, folks.